In this episode on Intent Topics, we are going to be talking about how marketing teams can use intent data to crush their goals. Hey everybody, it's Logan here with Chris Battis. Today we're going to be talking about how marketing teams can use intent data to crush their goals, generate more pipeline opportunities for their sales teams, and generally just live a happy life. So, Chris, thanks for joining me. I'm pretty pumped for this one.
Nice. Let's get into it.
Cool, dude. So you came from the marketing world. I spent a lot of time doing marketing. So since we kind of over the last year and a half, we've been down this intent data sort of SQL driven, sales qualified lead driven path. What are your thoughts, on how this relates to marketing teams?
Well, I think it just makes them a lot better, and I think it makes it so that when this kind of handoff from marketing to sales happens, you're going to have happier sales teams, right? You're going to have more qualified leads and a lot more information to go with them. Absolutely.
So what's interesting is over the course of the time that we've been working with clients and whatnot, what I've seen is like three sort of symptoms or categories of teams, marketing teams that we really work with effectively. Okay. And what I like is that, the more advanced marketing teams and departments could actually probably do a lot of what we do internally if they have the right competencies. So the three are, there's teams that are generating a lot of MQLs, marketing qualified leads, that are not getting contacted by or connected with by like the BDRs or the sales team. Yep. The second one is basically there's a lot of connection, but with the sales teams, but we're not seeing a lot of those going deeper into the sales process. So there's a lot of like kind of early disqualification in the process. And then the second piece is like, there's just like a lot of conflict between the sales and marketing team. And so it's like the marketing team needs to figure out, how can I generate more sales qualified leads for my team to go out there and close stuff.
Well, yeah. So, we're happiest when we are working with a marketing department that is like, what do you need? Right. What are you hearing in your sales calls? What are people asking you? What are pushback items? And let's create content around that. Absolutely. And so when we work with somebody like that, we know that there's almost like the proper amount of synergy between a marketing team and a sales team. And I guess I'm wondering if, like, for the number 2 bucket, you're saying there's connection, but they're not. It's almost like sales is disqualifying the leads that marketing is saying is qualified, and that's probably a disconnect. Where something like using intent data, it's almost like, here it's qualified, and here's why, and here's everything you need to know to do what you do great, which is close this deal, or at least get a conversation, further along.
Right. Well, so what in that second bucket? So the first one is there's no connection. The second one is there's a lot of connection, but there's a lot of disqualification, right?
Yeah.
In my opinion, that means that something good is happening in that organization, right? So the sales process and the ideal customer profile are well defined. So if I'm walking into that situation, I would rather do that. Right. And walk into the first one, right? So
meaning you're having connections, right? As a marketing team, and there's, for some reason, the sales team is connecting, but it's not turning to sales, right? Is that the bucket?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So in that case, the marketing team is doing a great job sort of nurturing those leads and putting them into the place of the sales team. And so what I would say with someone like that, that's like not this like huge problem. That's like, let's do a little bit of like tweaking, a little bit of messaging alteration, or let's start to layer in the data early in the process, right?
Yeah.
So for instance, we deal with a few clients who, you know, I think like the term that's kind of thrown around is like needle in a haystack, right? And I think there's a lot of companies that feel like they are searching for needles in a haystack.
Right.
And it's true. Like there are thousands of companies. There's hundreds of companies that could potentially look like the right company or the right target. But then when we get into the sales process, we pass the lead off, or the lead gets passed off. The sales team comes back and it's like, well, you didn't see this, you didn't see that. And it's like, whoa, wait a second.
Well, yeah, but that could be flipped on its head, and that should be like, hey, close, but what if it was more like this, right? And that's going to be an effective sales marketing relationship.
Exactly.
And that's what we get a lot from clients, because they're telling us, like, right? So like, it's like, what is, we hand them a lead, how'd that look? How'd that feel? How'd it go? How'd it close? And like, let's try this, let's try that, and tweak the data this way to bring me different things.
Exactly. And so, so the point I'm making is like that marketing team who's doing a good job nurturing, who's getting those connects from the sales team, and then maybe there's some disqualification. That's a data problem, right? So like that's like, okay, we need to take this cannon that you've already sort of built because it's working, but it's just, you know, if you're in a software space, or you're in a space that uses specific types of software, you know, so like I'm making a case for some technographic data, or if there's some creative sort of like intent strategies, whatever that data strategy is, just like it's like a frame shift over 10 feet, and you might hit the right target, right? So I think those teams, the case for intent data and some of these more like descriptive types of data for the companies that seem to have a lot of their what look like from the marketing team good quality leads getting disqualified in the sales process, assuming that the sales process is tight, it's a case for data. Right. And totally. So what we've seen is when you add the data to that, you know, whether it be the intent data, the technographic data, or like sometimes it's as simple as like just like firmographics, right? So like revenue or these kinds of things. Right. You put that data in the mix, all of a sudden the hits start happening at a much greater rate. You know?
Yeah. So like of the three buckets, right? So not getting connected with, but not turning deals. Well, let's just take the conflict out. Let's not even go down that bucket, because that's just. But let's talk about if we're getting MQLs, but they're not getting connected with. Meaning, you hint the sales team starts working it, and they're emailing or they're calling, and they're not getting connected with. Like, what's the fix there? Is it just like, is it actually not qualified? Is the information wrong? Is the salesperson just like waiting too long? Like, what is the typical disconnect happening right there?
Sure. So, having been on both sides of the sales and marketing divide, you know, I always assume that the sales team is doing what they need to do and the marketing team is doing what they need to do. And really what's occurring is some pieces are just missing, that if they're added, all of a sudden we can start to unlock, you know, serious growth. Obviously, when it's incredibly frustrating, I think probably on both sides of the divide, when you're generating a lead and it doesn't get contacted, right? So in some cases you're buying a lead from a third-party provider. In some cases you're generating a lead yourself, whether that be inbound, whether that be paid search. So Facebook leads are notoriously terrible to get in touch with. I like develop software just for Facebook leads. So because I was tired of it back in the B2C days. So the way to fix this, there's a couple, but when we say connect, we mean conversation, right?
Yeah.
So if you're not starting a conversation, if your emails are falling on deaf ears, if your phone calls are not getting picked up, if your LinkedIn connection request is not going through,
or no response,
yeah, exactly, then the context is wrong. Where we're starting the conversation is incorrect. And so what I mean by that is like there's two pieces to it. There's what we're basing the conversation on. So there's an element of like research. There's an element of what data are we gathering, and then there's an element of like how is that communication occurring, right? So, one of the things that I've struggled with is when you're going into a like you're selling into like a VP of sales, dude, they get so many outreaches from people that are at face value, they look just like me.
Right.
But what's that?
So what's the fix?
Yeah. So that's where the fix you've got to be creative like that. That's where the human hustle and muscle comes in. So it's like we dig a little bit deeper, right? Like I don't care if we have a mutual connection on LinkedIn. That doesn't matter anymore because that is table stakes. Mm-hmm. It's like what piece of news is interesting. What piece of information about the company really like is kind of obscure and might only matter to somebody. So, and then on the other side is if we want to do this at scale, then we start to add data into the sort of like, say you have 300 leads, 300 accounts, match those to the companies and then start to get data on, the verticals, the news, what technology they use, what intent, and start to prioritize and segment. You don't need to segment on like what they clicked on your website or what they clicked on an email. You can actually segment your sort of MQLs based on data that you're overlaying, right? Like secondary data. So it doesn't matter, they converted on X form or you bought them from X provider, you can still bring in other data and use that to enrich your outreach. So, if you want to go hyper personalized, dig deep into the LinkedIn. If you want to go more at scale and you're not ready to go hyper personalized, then layer other data in, firmographic data, technographic data, intent data. Those are the three. If you can do that, as a marketing team, you're going to start delivering conversations to the sales team that end in, pipeline opportunities at a much greater rate. So it's a very similar sort of the first issue we talked about was, not connecting. The second one was connecting, but disqualifying. One is use the data to start a conversation more intelligently. The second one is use the data to shift your cannon and fire it 10 feet over and you're probably going to be okay.
Yeah. Okay. So the success measure here really comes down to happy sales teams, right?
Yeah. I think like, salespeople are never happy, right? There's like you and me got off a sales call that, seemed like it went great to everybody, but I was pissed. Right?
Yeah.
And I could dissect it for 3 hours. So like sales teams are not going to be happy, but the measure of success is how many leads are coming out of the marketing department and going into the closed one over the course of a year. Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's gotta be what we're striving for. And the data that we're figuring out how to use is really helping, like empowering those marketing teams to get there. And I love helping marketing teams deliver more and more sort of closed one. And to get to closed one, where does it start? It starts at the beginning of the pipeline, right? So it's out of the leads into the pipeline and then at closed one. So, that's the only measure of success. Because if you're measuring success off of what a salesperson is saying, yeah, you're not going to get very far because they're just not going to give you. They're not going to give you like pleasant feedback if they're a good salesperson, right? Like it's just they're just trying to get more and more and more, and so that's the game. That's sales. So
nice. All right, buddy. Cool. Well, good chat.
Yeah, dude, this was great. I hope the intro was good. Was that a good intro?
That was a great intro. We should do that more often.
No, I don't like doing the intro.
You don't like to do it in the intro?
No, you sound much better in the intro.
I sound like radio?
Yeah, you get it.
You saying I got a face for radio?
Yeah, you do.
All right, well, let's wrap it up.
You look beautiful.
All right. Well, I'm Chris Battis.
And I'm Logan Kelly. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. Please give us a 5-star rating, a subscribe, a follow, whatever podcast you are listening on. We are crushing out great content. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we will see you guys next time.
All right. Take care.